Staff Sergeant Maria Rodriguez had always been different from other soldiers in her unit. While her fellow Marines were sharing stories about their weekend plans or complaining about the desert heat, she would quietly clean her rifle with the precision of a surgeon. The CheyTac M200 wasn't just her weapon, it was her lifeline, her partner in a world where millimeters meant the difference between life and death. The forward operating base in Afghanistan buzzed with its usual morning activity. Helicopters thundered overhead, their rotors kicking up clouds of dust that settled on everything like a fine brown blanket. Maria sat cross-legged in the shade of a supply tent, her rifle disassembled before her on a clean cloth. Each component gleamed in the harsh sunlight as she inspected every part with the intensity of someone who understood that failure wasn't an option. Born in a small town in Texas, Maria had grown up hunting with her father in the vast open ranges that stretched beyond their family ranch. Her father, a Vietnam veteran, had taught her that shooting wasn't about power or aggression, it was about patience, respect, and understanding the delicate relationship between the shooter, the weapon, and the environment. Those lessons had stayed with her through basic training, through sniper school, and now through her third deployment in the mountains of Afghanistan. The other soldiers respected her, but they kept their distance. There was something about Maria that made conversation feel unnecessary. She communicated through her actions, through the quiet confidence in her movements, and through the results she delivered when it mattered most. Her spotter, Corporal James Mitchell, understood her better than most. They had been working together for 18 months, and their partnership had evolved into something that transcended words. The CheyTac M200 was a masterpiece of engineering, capable of precise shots at distances that would make most people dizzy just thinking about them. The rifle weighed nearly 30 pounds when fully equipped, and its 408 caliber rounds could maintain accuracy at ranges exceeding 2 miles. The weapon became an extension of her will, a tool that could reach across vast distances to protect the soldiers who depended on her vigilance. The mission that would change everything began like any other. Intelligence had identified a high-value target operating from a compound in the mountains, approximately 15 miles from their base. The target was a Taliban commander responsible for coordinating attacks against coalition forces and local civilians who had chosen to cooperate with the government. Standard protocol would involve either an airstrike or a full ground assault, but both options presented significant risks. The compound sat on a rocky outcrop surrounded by steep cliffs and narrow paths. An airstrike might cause civilian casualties in the nearby village, and a ground assault would result in heavy losses given the defensive advantages of the terrain. The mission planners needed a surgical solution, something precise and clean. The briefing took place in a cramped tent filled with maps, satellite photos, and tactical displays. Colonel David Harrison, the base commander, outlined the situation with the methodical precision that had earned him respect throughout the military hierarchy. The target would be visible for only brief periods, appearing at specific times to survey the surrounding area from a high balcony. The distance from the nearest concealed position to the target was measured at 2,850 meters. Most snipers would have considered the shot impossible. The range exceeded the effective limits of standard sniper rifles, and environmental factors like wind, temperature, and altitude would make calculations extraordinarily complex. Even with the CheyTac M200's exceptional capabilities, success would require perfect conditions and flawless execution. Maria listened to the briefing without expression, her dark eyes focused on the satellite imagery. She studied the terrain, noting the elevation changes, the wind patterns indicated by the movement of smoke from cooking fires, and the positions where she might establish a hide site. While other participants in the briefing asked questions about backup plans and extraction routes, Maria remained silent, already visualizing the shot in her mind. After the briefing, she spent hours in preparation. She cleaned her rifle again, checked and double-checked her equipment, and reviewed weather reports and ballistic calculations. Mitchell worked alongside her, calculating wind speeds at different altitudes and preparing the specialized equipment they would need for the extended range shot. They practiced their communications procedures and rehearsed their movement patterns until every action became automatic. The night before the mission, Maria called her father from the base's communications center. She spoke in Spanish, their private language that connected her to home across the thousands of miles that separated her from the Texas ranch where she had learned to shoot. Her father's voice carried across the static, steady, and reassuring, reminding her of the fundamentals that had guided her since childhood. As dawn approached, Maria and Mitchell gathered their gear and prepared to move out. The mission would require them to traverse difficult terrain in darkness, establish a concealed position, and wait for the perfect moment. They would be alone in hostile territory, beyond the reach of immediate support, dependent entirely on their skills and each other. The journey to the Overwatch position took 6 hours of careful movement through treacherous mountain terrain. Maria and Mitchell moved like shadows, avoiding established trails and using natural cover to mask their approach. They carried enough water and supplies for 3 days, knowing that the target's schedule was unpredictable and they might need to wait for the perfect opportunity. They established their hide site on a rocky ledge that provided clear sight lines to the target compound while offering concealment from enemy observation. Mitchell used his spotting scope to survey the area while Maria prepared her firing position. The CheyTac M200 required a stable platform for long-range accuracy, and she spent considerable time adjusting the bipod and rear support to eliminate any possibility of movement during the shot. The first day passed without opportunity. The target appeared briefly twice, but both times the conditions weren't optimal. Wind speeds were variable, and the light conditions created optical challenges that could affect bullet trajectory. Maria remained patient, understanding that rushing the shot would likely result in failure and potentially compromise their position. On the second morning, conditions began to align. The weather was stable, with consistent wind patterns that Mitchell could measure and predict. The target appeared on schedule, but remained in view for only 45 seconds before retreating inside the compound. Maria made final adjustments to her scope settings and confirmed her firing solution with Mitchell. They would have one chance. The mathematics involved in a 2,850-meter shot were staggering. The bullet would travel for nearly 4 seconds before reaching the target, during which time Earth's rotation would affect its trajectory. The projectile would drop more than 30 feet due to gravity, and wind drift could push it several feet off course. Every variable had to be calculated precisely, from air density at different altitudes to the Magnus effect created by the bullet's spin. When the moment came, Maria's world narrowed to the crosshairs of her scope and the gentle pressure of her finger on the trigger. Her breathing slowed to a rhythm that synchronized with her heartbeat. Mitchell's voice provided final wind readings and target movement updates, but his words seemed to come from a great distance. Time slowed as Maria found the perfect balance between the mechanical precision of her weapon and the intuitive understanding that came from years of experience. The shot broke clean and smooth, the massive rifle recoiling against Maria's shoulder with controlled violence. Through her scope, she watched the bullet's vapor trail arc across the vast distance, disappearing into the haze above the target compound. 4 seconds later, Mitchell confirmed the hit through his spotting scope. The target had been neutralized with surgical precision. The extraction proved as challenging as the approach had been. Maria and Mitchell moved carefully through the mountain terrain, avoiding enemy patrols that had been activated in response to the incident. They reached the base 36 hours after taking the shot, exhausted but successful. The mission had accomplished its objectives without collateral damage or coalition casualties. Maria's after-action report was typically concise and factual. She documented the conditions, the calculations, and the results without embellishment. The shot would be verified through multiple intelligence sources, but Maria had already moved on to cleaning her weapon and preparing for the next mission. She didn't celebrate or discuss the achievement with other soldiers. For her, it was simply another job completed to the best of her abilities. Colonel Harrison processed the mission reports with growing amazement. Intelligence confirmed that the target had been eliminated precisely as planned, but the distance involved exceeded anything in his experience. He had commanded sniper units for 12 years and had never seen a confirmed kill at such an extreme range. The shot represented a combination of skill, equipment capability, and favorable conditions that might never align again. 3 weeks later, the official documentation arrived through military channels. Maria's shot had been verified and would be recorded as the longest confirmed sniper kill in military history. The achievement would require special recognition, and Colonel Harrison began the process of recommending Maria for appropriate commendations. On a humid Thursday morning, Colonel Harrison walked through the equipment area where soldiers maintained their weapons and gear. He noticed Maria in her usual spot, methodically cleaning the CheyTac M200 with the same careful attention she had shown every day for months. The rifle looked unremarkable to most observers, a complex piece of machinery requiring constant maintenance in the harsh desert environment. As he approached, something caught his attention. Mounted on the rifle's stock was a small metal emblem that he hadn't noticed before. The numbers 2850M were engraved in precise military script, indicating the maximum range at which the weapon had achieved a confirmed target elimination. Colonel Harrison stopped walking and stared at the emblem, understanding immediately what it represented. Maria continued her cleaning routine, apparently unaware of his presence. She worked with the focused concentration that characterized everything she did, her movements economical and precise. The colonel found himself studying this quiet soldier who had accomplished something that would be discussed in sniper schools and military academies for decades to come. The weight of the achievement settled in his mind as he stood there. At 2,850 meters, Maria had pushed the boundaries of what was considered possible with conventional sniper tactics. The shot required not just exceptional marksmanship, but an understanding of physics, meteorology, and ballistics that few soldiers possessed. It represented the culmination of years of training and experience, executed under the pressure of a critical mission where failure could have cost lives. Colonel Harrison cleared his throat softly, causing Maria to look up from her weapon maintenance. She stood immediately, recognizing his rank and according him the proper military courtesy, but her expression remained neutral and professional. The colonel studied her face, searching for any hint of pride or satisfaction about the achievement represented by that small metal emblem. "Staff Sergeant Rodriguez," he began, his voice carrying the authority of command but tempered with genuine respect. "I've been reviewing the mission reports from 3 weeks ago. That was exceptional work." Maria's response was typically understated. "Thank you, sir." The mission was successful. She offered no elaboration, no detailed explanation of the challenges overcome or the precision required. In her mind, the job had been completed according to specifications, and further discussion was unnecessary. The colonel gestured toward the emblem on her rifle. "That's quite a distance marker. I understand it represents something historically significant." He paused, allowing her to respond if she chose, but Maria simply nodded once in acknowledgement. Her reticence wasn't disrespectful. It reflected a personality that preferred action to words and measured achievement by results rather than recognition. Over the following weeks, word of Maria's accomplishments spread through military channels despite her reluctance to discuss it. Sniper instructors at Quantico requested detailed reports about the conditions and techniques involved. Ballistics experts wanted to analyze the data to understand how environmental factors had been calculated and compensated. Equipment manufacturers inquired about the weapon modifications and ammunition specifications that had made such a shot possible. Maria found the attention uncomfortable and largely irrelevant to her daily responsibilities. She continued her routine of equipment maintenance, physical training, and mission preparation with the same dedication she had always shown. When journalists requested interviews about her record-breaking shot, she politely declined through official channels. Her focus remained on current operations and the soldiers who depended on her capabilities. The military recognition process moved forward despite her personal preferences. Colonel Harrison submitted recommendations for multiple commendations, citing not just the single extraordinary shot, but Maria's consistent performance and professional excellence throughout her deployment. The paperwork described a soldier who had redefined the possibilities of precision marksmanship while maintaining the highest standards of military conduct. Mitchell, her spotter, provided additional context during his debriefing sessions. He described Maria's methodical approach to preparation, her ability to maintain focus under extreme pressure, and the trust that developed between sniper and spotter during critical missions. His accounts painted a picture of a partnership that exemplified the highest ideals of military teamwork and professional competence. The implications of Maria's achievement extended beyond personal recognition. Military tacticians began re-evaluating the role of precision marksmanship in contemporary operations. The ability to eliminate specific targets at extreme range offered strategic advantages that could reduce collateral damage and minimize risk to friendly forces. Training programs were modified to incorporate the lessons learned from Maria's success. Equipment development accelerated as manufacturers sought to improve upon the capabilities that had made the shot possible. The CheyTac M200 became a benchmark for long-range precision, with engineers studying every aspect of its design and performance. Ammunition technology advanced as researchers explored ways to maintain stability and accuracy at distances previously considered beyond practical limits. 6 months after the shot, Maria received orders to return to the United States for a new assignment at the sniper school at Quantico. The military had decided that her experience and expertise should be shared with future generations of precision marksmen. The transition from operational deployment to instructional duty represented a significant change, but Maria approached it with the same professional commitment she brought to every assignment. Her first class consisted of experienced Marines who had already completed basic sniper training. They expected to learn advanced techniques and gain insights into long-range precision marksmanship. What they found was an instructor who taught through demonstration and careful explanation rather than dramatic storytelling. Maria focused on fundamentals: breathing, trigger control, environmental assessment, and the mental discipline required for consistent accuracy. The students quickly learned that Maria's teaching style emphasized practical skills over theoretical discussion. She could explain the physics of bullet flight and the effects of atmospheric conditions, but she preferred to show how these factors influenced actual shooting. Her classes involved extensive range time, where students learned to read wind conditions, adjust for temperature variations, and compensate for the subtle factors that affected long-range accuracy. During one training session, a student asked directly about the 2,850-meter shot that had made Maria famous. She considered the question for a moment before responding with characteristic understatement. "Every shot requires the same fundamentals," she explained. "The distance changes the calculations, but the principles remain constant. Focus on mastering the basics, and the advanced applications will follow naturally." Years later, graduates of Maria's instruction program would carry her lessons to units around the world. They understood that precision marksmanship was about more than exceptional individual achievement. It was about professional responsibility, careful preparation, and the discipline to perform when others depended on your skills. The techniques she taught and the standards she maintained became part of military doctrine that would influence operations for decades. Maria's story became a case study in military academies, but she remained largely unaware of her growing reputation. She focused on her students and the constant work of improving training methods and developing new techniques. The small metal emblem remained on her rifle as a simple statement of capability rather than a declaration of personal achievement. The colonel who had first noticed that emblem retired from active duty but never forgot the quiet professionalism of the soldier who had redefined what was possible in precision marksmanship. In his final efficiency reports, he noted that exceptional achievements often came from individuals who approached their responsibilities with humble dedication rather than seeking recognition or glory. Maria Rodriguez embodied that ideal completely.